Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Moedim L'Simcha. What do you think? Does it look like a etrog?
Oh,
Yeah? Definitely. Okay, good. All right. Well, this is my holiday kippah, and we're celebrating. We're in the midst of the holiday of Sukkot, and it's a delight to be able to celebrate that. Rabbis all have equally important and beloved holidays, but I would say that Sukkot is first among equals as far as I'm concerned. I really love the holidays, so it's great to be able to celebrate it. So we're going to start out in a holiday mood to hear good and blessing. And what I have on my list is a number of birthdays that came up this past week. We want to congratulate Morgan Anderson and Samantha Chahal and Ellie Dukar, Alyssa Dukar, and Gary Milner, Dr. Pamela Ulanovsky, forgive me, Ellie Benier and Peyton Dietz and Nancy Friedman and Paul Silverlabe, all of them celebrating a happy birthday. I hope they had a wonderful celebration. So who has some good and blessing to report among the people gathered here? Anybody? Yes, Michelle. Oh, very nice. Okay, good. Betty.
My youngest son is 49 today.
49, all right.
We have my grandson being married over the weekend.
That's right.
The rehearsal dinner Saturday night and the wedding Sunday.
I'm looking forward to being there. Who else has anything to report? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Well, Samson.
My wife made pancakes with grapes in them today.
Grapes. I have to say, I saw the picture on Facebook. Visually,
Not great.
well, I wouldn't say that.
She says they were the best pancakes she's ever tasted.
I would say visually, they were challenging. But they were awesome, huh? The best pancakes ever. All right, I may have to go out there and take the risk. I'll think about it. No other good and blessing to report. I have good and blessing. A couple of things, but quite frankly, I'm going to focus on me. And what I'm excited about is here is my book, The Encyclopedia of Jewish Myth, Magic, and Mysticism in Japanese. It was translated. It's completely in a format I can't even imagine. It is tiny and packed, and you open it like a Hebrew book, but when you go inside of it, you start looking at it, and you think, oh my gosh, it's all these vertical columns of, iconography or ideography, and in fact, you realize after you look at it that you actually have to read it like a flip book, and that it goes down like this. So, to quote the great Chief Thundercloud from the movie Frisco Kid, I have read this book, and I can't make out a word. But it's still a cool icon, so I'm very excited about my very snazzy, it's got nice watermarks on it. So that was a very pleasing delivery today. So that's the good and blessing I'm having. So unless anybody has anything else to report, I think I'm going to take off my etrog for the moment. And let's go ahead and kindle the lights of Shabbat. So it's my privilege to invite up Casey Flansbaum, our Vice President of Education, to kindle the lights for us.
Rabbi, did you want to do Nigun first?
What's that?
Did you want to do
Yeah, I'm sorry. Would you start us with the Nigun? We'll make Casey stand there for a moment. You did. Casey. Page 1, we're in our purple Siddur.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Praised are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen. Yasher koach, my dear. Thank you. We're going to continue now with Kabbalat Shabbat, our opportunity to welcome the Sabbath into our midst, and we're going to start with Psalm 95 on page 2, Lechune Ranina.
Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Ladonai. Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Ladonai. Naria, Naria, Litzor Yishenu, Nikadma Fanav Betodah. Naria, Naria, Litzor Yishenu, Bezimro Naria Lo. Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Ladonai. Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Lechune Ranina, Ladonai.
We turn now to Psalm 97, page 4. Adonai reigns, let the land exalt and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds surround God. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. God's lightning illumines the world, and light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you who are righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. We turn now to Psalm 29 on page 6. Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, Adonai hoz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et hamo v'shalom. So ascribe to God, you children, ascribe to Adonai, you children of God. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name, and worship Adonai in the beauty of holiness. May Adonai give strength to this people. May Adonai with peace. We continue now with Lecha Dodi on page 7. As is our custom, we'll be rising for the final stanza and turning towards the door.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu el ham-yuchad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shem tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likad Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikor habracha, mehirosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'makshavat hilah. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitorari, kivalreku miori, yori, shir daberi, kevod Adonai hayiknigla. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'zohola, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likad kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
So rouse yourself, for your light has come. Arise, shine, awaken, and give forth the song. The glory of Adonai has been revealed to you. So come in peace, you crown of your husband, with rejoicing and with joy, to those who are faithful, a treasured people. Come, O Shabbat, come, O bride. Psalm 92. Mizmor shir leyom ha-Shabbat tov lahadot l'Adonai ul-zamir l'shimcha elyon. A song for Shabbat. It is good to give thanks to Adonai and to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a harp, with voice and lyre in unison. Sadik katamar yifrach, ve'erez ve'lebanon yizgeh, and the righteous shall bloom like a palm, they shall thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. We continue now with Hatzi Kaddish.
Yitkada v'yitkadash meraba.
Amen.
Yamad yifrach hirotev yamlek malchute. V'chayechanu v'yomechan u'chayei kol beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kari v'imnaru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, ve'alam me'amaya, Yitbarak v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitraman v'yinaseh, v'yithada v'yithaleh v'yithalal, shemei d'kudashah,
Brechu.
Leila min kol birkata v'shirata,
Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran belma, v'maru, amen. Please rise if able for the Baruch.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed.
Page 11, Ma'ariv Aravim. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, whose presence fills the world and whose word makes evening fall. God opens the gates of heaven, in wisdom makes time pass, and the seasons change. The stars in the sky move according to God's will. Adonai of hosts is the creator of day and night, causing day and night to alternate. May God govern us always to the end of time. Praised are you, Adonai, who makes this evening fall. Ahavat olam. And unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts have you taught us. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate upon your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. And then your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated, and please join me in the English of the Via Hafta on page 13. You shall love Adonai your God with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your being. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you dedicate yourselves to your God. I, Adonai, am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God. Emet ve'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'en zulato v'nachnu Yisrael armo. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good and beautiful is this eternal teaching. This truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai our God, you redeemed us from Egypt, and you set us free from the house of bondage. For this the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you, living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud, raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing. Like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing, the Micha Mocha.
Yai-dai, dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam. Mihi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mihi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lo tosef ele, norati lo tosef ele, yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam, yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai-dai, bim-bam.
Hashkivenu. As this day draws to a close, grant that we lie down in peace, Adonai our God, and tomorrow raise us up, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, and guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful Sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. Praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over your Jerusalem. We come now to Tefillah on page 17. If you're able, please rise.
Adonai Sefatai tiftachu fi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Socher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Kula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Mashiach, Mekakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Mehela, Melech Meimit, Umekayeh, Umatzmiat Yeshua, Ne'eman atah lechayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'Shmecha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'Kol Yom Yaluch Selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated, everyone. And we continue on page 21 to celebrate Shabbat with Yismechu v'Malchutecha. Those who keep the Shabbat and call it a delight shall rejoice in your kingdom forever.
Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Mecharashei, Mecharashei Shvi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbehu, V'Yetangu Metu V'Chashabat. Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Ubhashvi, Ratzita bo v'karashto Shabbat, Ze'achem dad yami, Oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Yismechu v'Malchutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'Korei Honeg Shabbat. Zecher L'maseh v'Reshit Shabbat. Zecher L'maseh v'Reshit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomre, Shomre, Shomre Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomre, Shomre, Shomre Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat.
This day is your desire, sanctified and blessed by you, the most precious of days, a memorial to the work of creation. Reitzeh, page 22. Adonai our God, show favor towards your people and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. For you alone do we hold in reverence. Modim. And we give thanks to you, Adonai our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. We thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. And we're going to close out this part of our service with Shalom Rav, asking for overflowing peace in our lives, page 23. After that, we're going to take a few moments for our own silent prayers and meditations.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha Tasihim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael v'chol het uv'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Tasihim Leolam. Tasihim Leolam. Say shalom bimroma, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'himru, amen. Say shalom bimroma, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'himru, amen. Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom bimromah. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, v'imru, Amen.
So, if I could make heads or tails out of my own book, published in a foreign language, I would probably draw your attention to the section I wrote on bibliomancy. Well, what is bibliomancy? Bibliomancy is an attempt to try and solve one's problems or anticipate the future by consulting the Bible. And there's actually three ways to do this, all right? The first one, sages of old used to have, if they had a problem they were pondering, they would go to a house of study where children were learning Torah, and they would just listen at the window, and the first verse that they heard, they assumed somehow significantly would help them, guide them in resolving whatever conundrum they had. All right? So the second solution was to actually take a Bible, and say you were a businessman who was struggling with some problems, they would close their eyes and they would put their finger down on the Bible, and whatever it said, that's what they do. Oh, chapter 11. Businessman, trouble, chapter 11? Oh, okay, it was a little too much. All right, I tried. All right, and the third kind is called chronograms. And a chronogram is the practice of trying to find biblical verses and phrases that equal the number of the year. All right, so we're now observing 5782. And so there could be some verses or phrases in the Bible that would match that, and we can supposedly learn about what we should do in the year ahead from these verses. Well, as it turns out, Daniel Matt, who is one of the great modern scholars of Jewish mysticism, sat down and did the research, and he found 29 verses that equal the number of the year, 5782. And so he published that list, and I thought that list was kind of interesting. So I thought I would look at it and see what there is among those. And I thought I would start at the bottom of the list, at number 29, at the very end of the Hebrew Bible, in a book that we rarely ever study, but it's quite interesting, the Book of Ezra, verse 2, chapter 1, is the phrase, Pachad alai livnot, all right? He has ordered me to build. Who is he? Ordering who to build what? Well, this verse proved important enough to be repeated a second time, verbatim, at the very end of the Bible, in 2 Chronicles 36, 22 to 23. He has ordered me to build. Who? What? He. Well, probably we would assume he is God, all right? Who is me? In the case of Ezra, it's the scribe Ezra. And what's he supposed to build? Well, look, it's easy, I think far too easy, to settle into a comfortable routine Judaism. I mean, in some sense, that's part of being a Jew, finding a spiritual routine. I've been a committed Jew for 36 years of my adult life, a rabbi for 25 years, and it's easy for me to drift into safe, comfortable routine, where my heart is not beating fast, certainly not panting after God like the thirsty deer after a water brook that is described in Psalm 42. At such times I am not, as David puts it, thirsting and yearning for God in a dry and weary land where there is no water. Sometimes my heart grows a little dull and my spirit vision can become a little short-sighted. What I need at such times, what we may all need, is for the Shekhinah, the divine presence, to blow upon us with a little spiritual renewal. He has ordered me to build. The book of Ezra and Nehemiah are about the renewal of our people. Ezra is about to return with the exiles from Babylon, and he has to build. He's rebuilding the temple, and he's restoring the people spiritually in their own land. Nehemiah, in the next book, is about the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem, as well as the spiritual renewal of God's people. Now, the book of Ezra falls into two sections. Chapter 1 and 6 deals with the initial return of the remnant of Jews from Babylon under the leadership of yet another guy, Zerubbabel, in 638 BCE with the aim of restoring the temple. The project begins within the first 2 years, but opposition arises, leading to the abandonment of the project for a number of years. And through the various efforts of the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, construction gets back on track, and the temple is rebuilt by 1515 BCE. So the theme of the book is God restoring the Jews to the land according to what was promised. Now, there are already many Jews in Babylon who are comfortable there. They're enjoying their spiritual repast. Many of them have been born in captivity, and Babylon is the only place they know. They heard a story from the old-timers about the glory of Zion and the beauty of the temple, but they just shrugged. Why go back when we have a good life here already? Besides, it was both inconvenient and risky to go back to Jerusalem. It meant saying goodbye to the comfortable and familiar surroundings and the friends and venturing across hundreds of miles of potentially hostile terrain to a land that had been, frankly, decimated by war. There weren't beautiful cities and beautiful homes awaiting them, as there already were in Babylon. There were piles of rubble and some people who were hostile, who'd moved into the land in the interim, when the Babylonians dragged off the Jews for 50 years. So why go back? But there were other Jews who were not settled. They remembered Zion, and they remembered the psalm that said, "How can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land?" So they heard the unbelievable news that Cyrus, the Persian king, the pagan king, had issued a call permitting the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. And as Psalm 126 says, they were like dreamers. Their mouths were filled with laughter and their tongues with joyful shouting. They said, "The Lord has done great things for us. Let's be glad." And so the captivity, which began around 605 BCE, Jerusalem ended up being destroyed a few years later in 5587. I know it's weird to go backwards with numbers, but that's the way it works. But the decree of Cyrus was in 538, the first year that he reigned over Babylon, and scarcely 50 years after the destruction, the seeming end of the Jewish people. Why would Cyrus, a pagan king, issue a decree for Jews to return to the land? In the 19th century, we discovered something called the Cyrus Cylinder. It was actually a cuneiform document that had all of his policies of restoring people to their native lands and to restore their native religions, asking them to pray to their gods on his behalf. A portion of the cylinder reads, "May all the gods whom I have resettled in their sacred cities daily ask Bel and Nebo," that was the god of Cyrus, "for a long life for me." So he was bribing all the gods. But on a human level, you have a Gentile king following this program of religious tolerance, asking subject peoples to pray to their gods for his well-being. He even provided some funds to be raised to support these restorations, and he donated temple objects that Nebuchadnezzar had pillaged and looted from the Jewish temple to be taken back. Was God's hand in this? Our ancestors thought so. So, do we just sit around and wait for God to do the work, or is there something we should be doing? Ezra thought there was something he needed to be doing. He thought that God had called him to build. He made it his project to fulfill God's word, and he made King Cyrus's word his own. If we want spiritual renewal, whether personally or for our community, I guess we have to take the initiative. If we're content in Babylon with no longer longing for what had been before, if we don't cry out for anything different, then nothing's going to happen. But if we realize that what God promises is more than what we're currently experiencing, we can give ourselves the power to actually make it happen. In the mystical text of the Zohar, it states that for there to be an arousal on high, there needs to be an arousal below. The renewal under Ezra was a human renewal of God's intention, and Ezra was the head of it. In Ezra 7:10 it says, Ezra set his heart to study the Torah of the Lord and to practice it and to teach his statutes and his ordinance to the people Israel. And then in Nehemiah we find out that under Ezra's leadership he had well-trained scribes read the entire Torah, everything to them, including with translators, so that they understood. And clearly Ezra was a man who believed in the transformative power of Torah. So after 70 years in Babylon, with the city of Jerusalem and the temple in ruins, how could things be restored? We seemingly didn't have the resources to do it, even if we had a royal edict. But it seems that every piece of the temple items was in some way serving as a witness to God's sovereign care and the continuance of the covenant. The covenant was not destroyed with the destruction of Jerusalem. It's still there. And here's the application for us today. Our building still stands. Are we going to reclaim it in this coming year? Thus, God's purpose was manifest in his glory through a rebuilt temple where he restored people who could worship in spirit and truth. Today, God's purpose and ours is the same, to reveal glory through a renewed people who, by their holy lives and witness, convey their holiness to all people. In other words, spiritual renewal, not only for ourselves so that we can lead happy, fulfilled Jewish lives, though that's not nothing, but also so that we not neglect the world that God has put into our care. Spiritual renewal is for the goal of the world, that we, along with God, make good the promise of a perfected world. So, in 5782, based on our specially selected verse, what can we do in light of COVID, which continues to plague us? What could 5782 look like? Well, we find new ways to return to our shared sacred center as soon as we are comfortable, in ways to make ourselves more comfortable. Maybe we can create events and find events where all of our members might feel safe to gather with other Jews in one form or another. Our work continues, and I invite you to offer innovative suggestions on how we can come back together. We should return, like Ezra, to Torah learning. Torah and Tefillah is something we offer every Saturday morning that you can come to, and we can do the weekly portion together. We're currently offering Intro to Judaism, and soon we're going to be offering a movie night, Theater Thursday, in which we're going to be viewing Jewish films. And in the spring, we've scheduled a joint Jewish-Christian program with Trinity Presbyterian, who's just up the street, and we're going to be swapping back and forth, doing some sharing of ideas and traditions, as well as discussing our differences. And then the third thing we can do is we can get involved in the work of rebuilding the world. I just got to meet with Melissa Trapani, our Tikkun Olam Vice President. Her new project is going to be, we're all the same underneath, which is to say we all need socks and underwear. And so we're asking you to donate new, not used, new underwear and socks so that people can have those resources they need, fundamental, yet easy to overlook and easy to forget. Just another small way that we can rebuild the world. So that's our verse. God has called us to rebuild. And so we are going to do that in the coming year. That's what 5782 is all about. So I hope to see you all in these three kinds of projects, which are described to us by the sage Simon the Just. The entire world depends on three things: on worship, on the study of Torah, and on deeds of love. So there's our agenda for the coming year. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So, announcements. Who's our announcement officer tonight?
I'll go ahead and do it.
Oh, Samson. This man is a triple threat. Not only is he our cantor, not only is he our producer, but he's also our announcer. Wow. He's like the Brett Goldberg of Kol Ami. Only one person in the room even knows what I'm referring to.
Announcements. So first one up, big thank you for the JFS High Holiday Food Drive. CK did an amazing job, was able to load over 7 baskets worth of groceries. Thanks to everyone that made this event a huge success. Celebrate Simchat Torah with CKA. This coming Tuesday evening, September 28th, we are gathering to read the end and beginning of the Torah so that there will never be an interruption in our sacred learning. Bring the whole family. At 6:15, we convene for a Cane's chicken strip dinner, and at 7, we commence our celebration. If you plan to attend, please RSVP using the link on the website. Thursdays at the theater, Oi the Horror.
Oi the horror, yes.
Oi the Horror.
Oi the horror.
Oi, the horror! Join us for our new Jewish cinema series, Thursdays at the Theater. We'll be showing Jewish horror from the beginning at cinema up to today. Beginning October 7th, sessions will run Thursday 7 to 9:30 with a screening each evening followed by discussion. Popcorn and soft pretzels will be provided. You can find additional details and a link to sign up on the website. I might have missed it, but what's the first movie?
First movie is The Golem.
The Golem.
The Golem, the classic 1915 German horror film with German expressionist style to it.
Is it in German?
No, it is silent,
Oh,
but luckily there are subtitles.
in German?
No.
Okay.
Wow, you're really pressing this one.
Well, I don't get to use the little bit of German that I know very often, but
Believe me, it'll all be accessible.
Sisterhood's Murder at the Skull Manor. Join the Sisterhood for food, drink, and a little intrigue as they host a murder mystery night on October the 12th at 6:30 p.m.
We're taking a dark turn in October.
We are. All of the gory details can be found on the website. It promises to be a scary good time. If you would like to attend, please RSVP to Carly Wisniewski. And as always, you can find all the specific details for these announcements and anything else you might need on the congregation website. Here at Congregation Kol Ami, we want to take special consideration to think of those who might need extra thoughts and prayers, who are dealing with illnesses of all kinds. So before I read the list, I wanted to ask, is there anyone here that wanted to add a name to the Misha Berach list?
Two Burgers, Tom Holiday, Jay Garrett, Terry Jefferson, William Kaplan, Leora Yona, Rosemary Thatcher, Maxine Solomon, Stan Hirschman, and Tom Paul.
May the ones who blessed your ancestors also bless Harry Anthony, Eli Arts, Joyce Bloom, Howard Bloom, Natalie Bovino, Maxine Collins, Sandy Cook, Dave Cook, Jerry Dietz, Gordon Ellison, Tammy Ferris, Michelle Griffith, Ken Hirschman, Jody Hoffman, Joshua Holcomb, Deb Kaufman, Lauren Koenig, Alex Koenig, Sandy Lenzner, Charles Neff, Herbert Paley, Paul Redwood Jr., Kiera Richardson, Sandy Garber-Rubin, Adrian Sandler, Myra Schusler, Dale Seaver, Salem Thompson, Ashley Wawrow, Jeffrey Wawrow, and Rachel Wawrow. You can find the Misha Berach on page 40 or on the back of your sheet, or also I think page 81 or 82.
Oh, yeah.
It's all over.
Mishe Berach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishepera imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So just to enhance those announcements a little bit, tonight, because it is Sukkot, we're going to take all of our little snacks and drinks, and they're already outside in the sukkah, and we can go out and we can fulfill the mitzvah of dwelling in the sukkah with that, and I will bring our etrog and lulav out there so we can also fulfill the mitzvah of waving the lulav. And if you have nothing to do, tomorrow morning I'm going to bring bagels and cream cheese so that we can have Torah and tefillah outside also and be able to have a nice lunch together in the sukkah. So a number of opportunities for us to experience Sukkot before it winds down on Tuesday. And so I just wanted to keep you thinking about that. So now we're going to turn to page 82. Page 82, and I'm going to say, RJ, would you come on up and open the ark with me? Please rise if you're able. Let me get a mask. All right, you go first. Page 82.
Leinu meshabeach ladon hako, latei kedula liotse breshi, shelo asanu kuye haratso, velo samanu kemisvachot adama, shelo samkelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kekohamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlakim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noten shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim imao ushkinatu zo Vegope meromim, hu Eloheinu eno, emet malkeinu efesulato, kakatu betorato, virata hayom behashevota elevavecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim nimao, v'al haaretz nitakat eno. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushamo echad. Now's the time we take to think about those we recall with love and those we appreciate, the names of those whom we've lost, both those we've lost recently as well as those who we lost at this season in years past. And I begin by asking, is there anyone here who has lost a loved one or someone close to them in the last week? Anybody here in Shiva? For Shloshim, we continue to mourn with Helena Shapdossi for her brother, Donald Gary Shap, and we also continue to mourn with Stephen Dukar and his family for his mother, Patricia Dukar, both of whom died in the past 30 days. Is there anybody else? Yes.
Coleman Elkins.
Thank you. This week here at Congregation Kol Ami, we think of these individuals whose yahrzeits occur: Marhold de Brouw, George Goodgold, Ellis Cram, Freda Lappin, Natalie Lenzner, Rose Portnoy, Sam Silverlabe, and Estelle Wallach. Is there anyone else with a yahrzeit this week? The memory of all these people are here with us. For those who knew them, I hope their memory grows sweet with the passing years. The rest of us, we'd like to show our sympathy and support by rising together and reciting Kaddish on page 85. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Israel b'galal uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'elam ulamei amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba mim shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mroma, hu yasei shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, and comfort all the bereaved, and let us say, please be seated, everyone. And we're going to do a closing song before we do our Kiddush for Shabbat and withdraw to the Sukkah. And tonight we're going to do Adon Olam on page 93 if you do the Hebrew, or page 94 if you want the transliteration. Adon Olam, Sovereign of the Universe.
Adon Olam is my wife's favorite. Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem kol yitzir nivra Li'ed nasa v'chetzo kol Azai melech shemo nikra V'hacharei kichlot hakol Levado yimlok nora V'hu haya v'hu hoveh V'hu yiyeh betifara V'hu echad v'hen sheni Lehamshil lo lechakbira B'li reshi b'li takli V'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra V'hu eli v'chai goeli v'tzur chevli b'yetzara v'hu nisi humanos li manat kosi b'yom hekra b'yado afkid ruchi b'yeti shan v'ha'ira v'him ruchi geviati Adonai li v'lo hira. I place my soul within God's palm before I sleep, and when I wake, and though my body I forsake, I rest in Adonai in fearless calm. And so it is. Would you like me to do Kiddush? Okay. So I am doing Kiddush, and we're going to sanctify the Shabbat. It's such a weird Jewish thing that God sanctifies Shabbat, yet we insist on doing it too. It's a sign of our partnership with the Holy Blessed One. So please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava ufratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila למקרא קודש, זכר לציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה ופרצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. L'chaim. You have chosen us and sanctified us from among all people to celebrate your Shabbat. And now, we have some lovely challah, once again baked by the lovely Casey. And please join me. We're going to distribute this, and then I welcome you to come out to the sukkah and fulfill the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody. My engineer went away.